Have you ever just stopped and thought about how weird it is that, like, anything is anywhere at all?
Yeah, I guess I can see that.
It seems so simple at first, right? Like, where's the book? Oh, it's on the shelf.
Sure.
But then you start thinking, well, what does that even mean? Like, how does this thing, the book, relate to this area of space we call the shelf?
Right.
And then the whole thing just sort of explodes into this huge philosophical mess.
You're not wrong. It's amazing how quickly those simple questions can lead you into some seriously deep metaphysical waters.
Well, that's exactly where we're going today, my friend. Deep into the philosophical rabbit hole of location and mereology. And to help us navigate this complex terrain, we've got a fantastic guide. The Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy.
Ah, the SEPI, a philosopher's best friend.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So in this deep dive, we're going to explore how the where of things, their location, is connected to the what of things, their mereological structure, the parts and wholes that make them up.
And just to be clear, when we talk about location, we're not just talking about pointing to a spot on a map.
Right. We're talking about the fundamental relationship between an object and the region of space or space-time it occupies.
We're going to see how philosophers have tried to make sense of this relationship using formal logic, coming up with all sorts of fascinating principles and mind-boggling possibilities.
And trust me, there are some seriously counterintuitive ideas in store.
Like buckle your seatbelts level counterintuitive.
So if you're ready to have your philosophical assumptions about reality challenged, then stick around because this is going to be a wild ride.
Now, before we jump into the really weird stuff, let's lay some groundwork.
Right, the basics. So for those of you out there who lean towards substantivalism, the view that space and time are like real things in themselves.
Not just relations between objects.
Exactly. Well, for the substantivalists, this relationship between an object and its location is like front and center.
It's a big deal, yeah.
It's all about figuring out, is an object simply contained by space? Or is there a deeper, more like fundamental connection?
Right, like are they somehow intertwined in some crazy way?
And to tackle this head on, philosophers have developed these amazing things called logics of location.
Oh yeah, logics of location, fun stuff.
It's basically like they created a whole new language to describe how an object's parts line up with the parts of the region it takes up in space.
It's all about precision, you know, making sure we're all talking about the same thing when we talk about location.
And within this like super precise framework, there are 4 main areas where our everyday intuitions about location and mereology, well, they sort of break down.
Yeah, they kind of fall apart.
These are the scenarios that really make you question everything you thought you knew about how objects exist in space.
Think of them as like cracks in the mirror of reality.
Okay, dramatic, I like it. So picture this. You have your favorite philosophy book.
Let's say Kant's Critique of Pure Reason.
Nice choice.
It's a classic.
Anyway, you'd probably assume that the book's physical boundaries perfectly define its location, right? Like the space it takes up is exactly where it is.
Except
And each page, each sentence, each word
contributes to the book's overall spatial extent.
Precisely. But what if this neat and tidy correspondence just isn't true? What if the relationship between an object and its place could be way more complicated?
Way weirder, yeah.
So, challenge number 1, interpenetration.
Ah, interpenetration.
Oh, sounds scary.
Well, it's basically the idea that two different things, two distinct objects,
That don't share any physical parts.
right, they're completely separate
Could somehow occupy the same or overlapping regions of space at the same time.
at the same time.
It's like mind-blowing. Like imagine a ghost passing through a wall.
The classic ghost example.
2 seemingly solid things in the same place, but they don't physically interact.
You just kind of like coexist. It makes you question what solidity even means.
Right. Like what even is space, if that's possible?
It's definitely a head scratcher.
Okay, next up. Challenge number 2, extended simple.
Extended simples. These are fun.
So a simple in mereology is something that has no parts. It's like the most basic, fundamental building block of reality.
The smallest possible thing.
But what if, and this is a big what if a simple could still be extended in space?
Meaning it takes up space, but isn't made of smaller bits of space.
Exactly. Like imagine a tiny sphere that's perfectly uniform with no internal structure whatsoever.
It has a size, a shape, a location, but no parts.
It's like a spatially substantial atom, but without any internal atomic structure.
It's one of those things that, like, the more you think about it, the less sense it makes.
But that's philosophy for you.
Okay, challenge number 3. Unextended complexes.
This is the opposite of extended simples.
Yeah, the flip side.
So imagine an object that's made up of parts.
It's complex in the mereological sense.
But it's somehow located at a region of space that has no parts.
Like a single point.
It's like trying to squeeze an entire encyclopedia into a dot.
The ultimate space-saving hack.
Right. How do you fit all that complexity into something with absolutely no spatial extent? It's mind-boggling.
And last but not least, challenge number 4. Multi-location.
This one might be the most wild of them all.
Multi-location. This is where things get really weird.
So picture this. You're somehow in 2 places at once.
Not just like your body is in 2 places.
But your whole self, are fully present in 2 separate locations.
Simultaneously.
It's like being split in 2, but both halves are you.
It really messes with our understanding of what it means for something to be one thing.
So those are the 4 big ones. Interpenetration, extended simples, unextended complexes, and multi-location.
The 4 horsemen of mereological apocalypse.
Now, to even begin to wrap our heads around these crazy possibilities, we need to start with the basics.
The fundamentals, yeah.
Like, what do we even mean by location in the first place?
Okay, good question. So philosophers often use the concept of exact location as their starting point.
Exact location.
Yeah, it's like saying that an object occupies a region of space that matches it perfectly in terms of shape and size.
No gaps, no overlaps, a perfect fit.
They often represent this with the symbol L, like L of X, Y.
L for location.
Where X is the object and Y is the region it exactly occupies.
So if I'm holding my trusty copy of Wittgenstein's Tractatus,
another excellent philosophical choice,
then we could say that L of the book, the space on my hand, is true.
Right. The book is exactly located at that particular region of space.
Okay, makes sense. But the sub-P also mentions other kinds of location, right? Like weak location, entire location, and pervasive location.
Ah, yes, the variations on the theme.
So how do those relate to this, core concept of exact location?
Well, they're all based on the idea of exact location, but they add in some extra layers of mereological complexity.
Layers of complexity? That sounds ominous.
No, it's not too bad. So, for instance, weak location means that an object is exactly located somewhere that overlaps with a particular region.
It's like saying that part of the object is in that region.
Exactly. So, if I put my copy of the Tractatus down on a larger table.
But only part of the book is actually touching the table surface.
Right. Then the book is weakly located at the table.
Even though it's not exactly located there.
Precisely. It's a more relaxed notion of location, It's not all or nothing.
Okay, I think I'm following so far.
Then you've got entire location, which means that the exact region an object occupies is completely contained within a larger region.
So the book's exact location is a part of the table's location.
Right. It's like a nesting doll situation.
I see.
And then you have pervasive location, which is sort of the opposite of entire location. It means that the object's exact location includes a particular region as a part.
So it's like saying the book's location extends outward to encompass another region.
Yeah, exactly. Like if the book was somehow stuck to the table and we considered the book and the table as a single combined object.
Then the combined object's location would be pervasive with respect to the table's location.
Precisely. You're getting it.
So we've got exact location as the starting point. And then we build out from there with these other more nuanced concepts.
It's like building a philosophical toolkit, piece by piece.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork with the different types of location. Now let's zoom in on the logic of location itself.
The nitty-gritty, yeah.
What are the basic rules that govern this L relation, even before we bring in all the mereological stuff?
So most philosophers start by treating L as a 2-place relation.
Meaning it connects one object to one region.
Exactly. But, as always in philosophy, there are some who disagree.
Of course there are.
Some philosophers argue that location is actually a 3-place relation.
3 place?
Yeah, because they think you need to include time as well.
Oh, I see. So it's not just object X is located at region Y. It's object X is located at region Y at time T.
Right, because, after all, things move around. They're not always in the same place.
So if we want to accurately describe an object's location, we need to specify when it's located there.
And the SCP also mentions something called plural location.
Plural location. Sounds complicated.
It is. The basic idea is that an object, especially a big extended object, might be exactly located at multiple places all at once.
But not at any one of those places individually.
Yeah, it's like imagine a long rope laid out in a straight line. It's not exactly located at any single point along its length.
But it's definitely located at all those points collectively.
Right. It's a strange way of thinking about location, but it might be necessary if we want to account for, like, the continuity of objects.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get a headache.
Don't worry, we'll stick in the two-place relation for now. Keep it simple.
Thanks. So, what are some of the basic principles that philosophers have come up with to govern this L relation?
Okay, well, there are a few big ones. One is functionality.
Functionality.
Yeah, it basically says that each object can have only one exact location at any given time.
That makes sense. Like, my coffee cup can't be in two places at once.
Unless it's multi-located.
Right, right. We'll get to that later.
Another important principle is conditional reflexivity.
Conditional reflexivity.
It's a bit more abstract. It says that if something is located at a region, then that region is located at itself.
So a region is located at itself.
Yeah, like a self-contained space.
It's a lot to process.
There's also a principle called conditional emptiness.
Conditional emptiness?
Yeah, it says that if something is located at a region, then that region doesn't have its own location.
So a region is like a container. It holds things, but it itself isn't contained within another container.
Exactly. It's a way of avoiding an infinite regress of locations.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've got functionality, conditional reflexivity, and conditional emptiness.
And of course, there's always the possibility of disagreement and debate among philosophers about which principles are the right ones.
Right, because that's what philosophy is all about.
Exactly. Now, there's one more principle that's worth mentioning here, asymmetry of location.
Asymmetry of location.
This one says that if X is located at Y, then Y can't be located at X.
So an object can be located at a region, but the region can't be located at the object.
Right. It's like a one-way street.
And the essay mentions that there's some tension between asymmetry of location and conditional reflexivity.
Yeah, because if a region is located at itself, as conditional reflexivity suggests, then it seems like we're violating the asymmetry principle.
So how do we resolve that?
Well, one way is to weaken the asymmetry principle a bit. Instead of saying that if X is at Y, then Y can't be at X.
We could say that if X and Y are distinct, and X is at Y, then Y can't be at X.
Exactly. That way a region can still be located at itself, but two different things can't be located at each other.
Okay, that seems like a reasonable compromise.
And that's basically the principle of anti-symmetry of location.
Anti-symmetry of location.
Got it. And just to round things out, the SEP introduces this definition of regionhood.
Regionhood.
It basically says that an entity is a region if and only if it's located at itself.
So back to the self-contained space idea.
Exactly. If a thing is its own location, then it's a region. If it's not, then it's not.
Makes sense.
Okay, so that's a quick overview of some of the basic principles that govern the logic of location.
I feel like we've done a lot of heavy lifting already.
It's true. But we're just getting started. Now it's time to bring in the mereology.
The study of parts and wholes.
Exactly. And this is where things get really interesting. Because now we're not just talking about where things are located. We're also talking about how their location relates to their internal structure.
Like, how do the parts of an object map onto the parts of the region it occupies?
Precisely. And there's this very intuitive idea called mereological harmony, or sometimes mirroring.
Mirroring.
Yeah, it's like saying that the mereological structure of an object should be reflected in the mereological structure of its location.
So if an object has parts, its location should also have parts that correspond to those parts.
Right. Like if you have a bookshelf,
With a bunch of books on it.
then the bookshelf's location should be divisible into smaller regions, each of which corresponds to the location of one of the books.
It's like a one-to-one mapping between the object and its space.
And a philosopher named Saucedo actually formalized this idea with a set of principles, H1 through H8.
H1 through H8,
Yeah, they're like little rules that describe how parthood and location should line up.
for example.
Well, H1 says that an object is mereologically simple, meaning it has no parts if and only if its exact location is also simple.
So no parts in the object, no parts in its location.
Right. And H5 says that X is a part of Y if and only if the exact location of X is a part of the exact location of Y.
So parthood in the object mirrors parthood in the location.
It's all about keeping things nice and symmetrical.
I like symmetry.
But, as we've already hinted at, this beautiful harmony doesn't always hold.
Right, there are those 4 pesky challenges.
The cracks in the mirror.
So let's start with interpenetration. Remember, this is the idea that 2 distinct objects could somehow occupy overlapping regions of space without sharing any parts.
Yeah, it's a real head-scratcher.
So what are some of the arguments in favor of interpenetration?
Well, one argument comes from the world of universals and tropes.
Universals and tropes. Can you remind us what those are again?
Sure. Universals are properties that can be shared by multiple objects.
Mm.
Like redness is a universal because many things can be red.
And tropes are particular instances of properties, like the specific redness of this apple is a trope.
Exactly. So the argument for interpenetration goes something like this. If an electron has the property of negative charge,
And the property of mass,
and these properties are universals,
then they're both fully present in the electron.
and since the electron has a location, these universals must also have that same location.
But they're not parts of each other.
Right. So we have two distinct entities, negative charge and mass, occupying the same location.
That's interpenetration.
And the same argument could be made for tropes.
The specific negative charge of the electron and the specific mass of the electron are both located in the electron, but they're not parts of each other.
Right. It's a way of arguing for interpenetration based on the nature of properties.
Okay, that's one argument. What else?
Well, there's the classic argument from conceivability.
Conceivability.
Yeah, it's the idea that if you can clearly and distinctly conceive of something, then it must be possible.
So if we can imagine two objects passing through each other without interacting,
Like that ghost going through the wall.
then maybe it really is possible.
It's a powerful argument, but it's not without its critics.
And then there's the argument from bosons, right?
Yes, bosons. These are particles in quantum physics that can occupy the same quantum state.
Meaning they can be in the same place at the same time?
Exactly. So if bosons are real, and they can do that,
Then interpenetration must be possible.
it's a way of bringing empirical evidence from physics into the philosophical debate.
I like it when science and philosophy collide.
I do. And finally, there's the argument from recombination.
Recombination.
This one's a bit more technical. It's based on the idea that we can imagine different possible worlds where things are arranged in different ways.
So we can imagine a world where object A is located at region R.
And we can imagine another world where object B is located at region R.
But those are two separate worlds.
Right. But the argument from recombination says that we can combine those two worlds into a single world.
Where both object A and object B are located at region R.
And that's interpenetration.
It's like a philosophical cut and paste job.
Sort of.
Mhm.
But, as this essay points out, there are some challenges with this argument.
Like what?
Well, you have to be careful about what you mean by combining worlds.
It's not as simple as it sounds.
And you also have to define what it means for two states of affairs to be distinct, which is trickier than you might think.
Okay, so interpenetration is still very much an open question.
Very much so.
But it's definitely a possibility worth considering.
Now let's move on to extended simples. Remember, these are objects that have no parts but still take up space.
It's like a fundamental particle that's not a point.
So what are some of the reasons why philosophers might believe in extended simples?
Well, the argument from conceivability comes up again here.
If you can imagine it.
It might be possible.
So if we can imagine a spatially extended object that's completely uniform and has no internal structure.
Then maybe extended simples are real.
And there's also an argument from string theory.
String theory, like the physics stuff.
Yeah. Some interpretations of string theory suggest that the fundamental building blocks of reality are these tiny, one-dimensional strings.
And strings are extended, but they're also considered to be fundamental, meaning they have no parts.
So if string theory is true, and those strings are like that, then we might have real-world examples of extended simples.
Wow, so physics might be giving us evidence for extended simples.
But of course, it's not that simple.
I should have known.
There are other interpretations of string theory that don't require extended simples.
And as always, there are philosophers who argue against the very possibility of extended simples.
One of the main arguments against extended simples is the problem of qualitative variation.
Qualitative variation.
It's basically the idea that if something is truly simple, it shouldn't have different properties in different parts.
So if an extended simple was shaped like a hammer,
It couldn't have a wooden handle and a metal head.
because then it would have parts.
Right. And if it was all one material, it couldn't be like red on one side and blue on the other.
Because then it would have different properties in different parts.
Exactly. So qualitative variation poses a real challenge for the idea of extended simples.
It's like a philosophical paradox.
But of course, philosophers have come up with some clever ways to try to get around this problem.
Like what?
Well, one solution is to say that properties aren't located in objects in a simple way.
Like, instead of saying that the hammer is red, we could say that it's red at this specific region.
Exactly. That way, the redness is tied to a particular location within the hammer, but it's not a part of the hammer itself.
It's like saying the redness is a property of the space the hammer occupies, rather than the hammer itself.
Another solution is to say that extended simples have special kinds of properties that can vary across their spatial extent.
Like, instead of having separate parts, they have these, like, distributed properties that are spread out over the whole object.
Yeah, it's a way of accounting for qualitative variation without having to appeal to actual parts.
It's like saying the hammer has the property of being wooden on one end and metal on the other, but that property isn't grounded in any underlying mereological structure.
It's definitely a bit mind-bending, but it's a possible solution.
Okay, so extended simples are tricky.
Very tricky.
But what about unextended complexes? Those are the objects that have parts but are located at a single point.
Yeah, those are also strange.
So how do philosophers argue for the possibility of unextended complexes?
Well, one argument is based on the idea of co-located points.
Co-located points, like multiple points all occupying the same space.
Exactly. So imagine you have 2 points, and they're both located at the exact same spot.
Like literally superimposed on each other.
And then you fuse those points together into a single object.
So now you have an object that's made up of 2 points.
But it's still located at a single point.
That's an unextended complex.
Right. Because it has parts,
Yeah.
but it's located in a region that has no parts.
It's like a philosophical magic trick.
Another argument for unextended complexes is based on the idea of objects with unlocated parts.
Unlocated parts, like parts that aren't anywhere.
Yeah, it sounds strange, but it's a possibility.
So imagine you have an object that's made up of parts, but none of those parts have their own locations.
And yet, the whole object does have a location.
So it's located somewhere, but its parts aren't.
Exactly. It's like a ghostly object, where the parts are somehow ethereal and unbound by space.
It's hard to wrap my head around that.
And the C points out that these 2 different kinds of unextended complexes violate different principles of location and mereology.
So depending on which principles you're committed to, you might be more or less likely to accept the possibility of unextended complexes.
Right. It's all about finding the right balance between our intuitions about parthood and our intuitions about location.
And sometimes those intuitions clash.
Okay, are you ready for the grand finale?
I think so. Bring it on.
It's time to talk about multi-location.
The wildest of them all.
The idea that an object can be fully present in multiple locations at the same time.
Like not just having parts in different places.
But actually being wholly present in multiple places.
It's like the ultimate superpower.
So what are some of the arguments for multi-location?
Well, the argument from conceivability comes into play here, as always.
If you can imagine it.
It might be possible.
And the SE also mentions some other arguments based on things like immanent universals.
Enduring objects.
Even time travel.
Time travel, really?
Yeah, if you think about it, the idea of time travel already kind of implies multi-location.
Because if you travel back in time, then you're existing in 2 different times simultaneously.
And if time is just another dimension of space-time?
It's there. Then you're existing in 2 different locations simultaneously.
It's a mind-bending thought.
So multi-location might be a necessary consequence of time travel.
Maybe.
And the Sepia also discusses some arguments against multi-location.
Of course.
Like, one argument is based on the idea that if an object is multi-located, then it should be weakly located at all the regions it's multi-located at.
But if those regions are distinct and non-overlapping,
then the object is weakly located at a bunch of different disconnected places.
and that seems kind of strange, doesn't it? Like, how can an object be one unified thing if it's spread out all over the place like that?
It's like saying that a single book is weakly located on every shelf in the library.
It's not a very satisfying picture.
And there's also the problem of qualitative variation again.
If an object is multi-located, and it has different properties in its different locations,
then how can it be considered a single unified object?
it's like the hammer being red on one side and blue on the other, but on a much grander scale.
Okay, so multi-location has its challenges.
But there are also ways to try to address those challenges.
Like some philosophers argue that we need to revise our understanding of mereology.
Instead of thinking about parts as simple, static things,
We need to think about them in a more dynamic, contextual way.
like maybe something can be a part of an object in one location.
But not a part of the same object in a different location.
It's a way of allowing for multi-location without having to give up on the idea of objects having parts.
It's like saying that the book on the shelf is a part of the library.
But the same book, checked out and in someone's backpack, isn't a part of the library anymore.
So the book's parthood is relative to its location.
It's a way of making mereology more flexible and adaptable to the weirdness of multi-location.
Okay, I think my brain is officially fried.
You and me both.
But before we call it a day, the Shini mentions one more really radical view: supersubstantivalism.
Supersubstantivalism, the most radical of them all.
So what is this supersubstantivalism all about?
It's basically the idea that material objects are identical to their locations.
They're not just in space, they are space.
Exactly. It's like saying that your coffee cup is literally a chunk of space-time.
That's wild.
And if supersubstantivalism is true, then all these weird possibilities we've been talking about.
Interpenetration, extended simples, unextended complexes, multi-location.
All of them are impossible.
Because if an object is its location, then it can't be in multiple locations at once.
And it can't be simple if its location is complex, or vice versa.
So supersubstantivalism is like a philosophical silver bullet.
It solves all these problems in one fell swoop.
But it also requires us to accept a really radical view of reality.
It's a big pill to swallow.
Well, I think I've swallowed enough philosophy for one day.
Me too.
So after this deep dive into the bizarre world of location and mereology, I'm left with more questions than answers.
That's the beauty of philosophy.
It's true. It makes you think about the world in new ways.
And sometimes it makes you question everything you thought you knew.
So, dear listener, as you go about your day, think about this. Where are you, really? And how does your location relate to all the parts that make up you?
It's a question worth pondering.
And if you want to delve even deeper into these fascinating and perplexing issues, we encourage you to check out the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy entry on location and mereology.
There's a whole world of philosophical exploration waiting for you.
So until next time, keep those philosophical gears turning.
And remember, location, location, location.
I couldn't resist. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
See you next time.